Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Hope you guys been enjoying the content channel as of late. Like I said, I've just been rather busy today. Actually, I got a couple things I gotta get done. So I'm gonna be recording this. Hopefully today I can have this video out. We'll see. Uh, Probably more likely on Friday. This is gonna come out. But we're gonna be recapping now that we're now slowly entering the summer season. At least in the film world, summer season. I like to look at spring and look at how things went, the first quarter of the year, basically, and seeing how things went there for film at the box office. So it's very similarly. Sorry, I get that word out. Very similarly, like how you do the box office recap. So normally, like I always do before we start off with these videos, I like to give you guys an explanation on how I am judging these box offices. And usually, for how I take it, I look at, firstly, production and marketing, and I times that by two. And that's how much the overall investment needs to make in order to see a return on said investment. Then you have to think about theatrical distribution, that's also on top of it, which, usually is a 50-50 cut between theater chains. So then that movie is then needing to do even more so. So that's an additional two times. So whatever the results are from the investment costs, say like something's like a 200 million, investment with production and marketing, all together it's $200 million. With theatrical distribution involved, you have to then now times that two that you already done. So 200 times two, 400 million. That's how much that movie would need to do on its own. Um, on distribution, on top of that, you have to times that by two again. So now, really, what the movie has to do overall is $800 million, right? So that's how I'm judging it. I'm also including like anything related to the expenses, like reshoots or whatever. That's how I'm basically judging this. So yeah. So how we're doing this is that we're looking at it by each studio. So we're going to be looking at Disney, Lionsgate, Paramount, all those guys, and we're going to see how they did in the first quarter. So hopefully that all makes sense. And I also judging how it would do on streaming, if it needs to make up anything on streaming that's doable or not for those investments. I'm also considering that as well. So hopefully that all makes sense. And let's just jump right in and see how the first quarter went for 2026. So let's get started. All right, first company we're going to look at is Sony. And as you can see, Sony did not have the best time in the first quarter. Their two major releases, and also to say, I'm also considering only releases that are noteworthy. I'm not obviously there's thousands of films that come out within each quarter. So we're not going to be looking at every single one, obviously. Just mainly the more noteworthy ones, the ones with the more heavy investments and stuff like that. Um, or things that are like smaller scale that have like went off and did something or didn't do anything. Basically like stuff that I'm aware too, basically. So just judging it by that, asterisk. Um, but but yeah, Sony, as far as I can tell, they did not have the best time. They had 28 years later, The Bone Temple, which didn't go much of anywhere. I mean, the first film, as far as I can tell anyway, it wasn't as big of a draw as some people make it out to be. And The Bone Temple, I mean, the fact that it came out in January also solidified to me that they also were not confident about the trajectory of that series post the first film. And then Goat, which was I mean, I thought might have done a little bit better, but it just kind of came and went, unfortunately. So that's Sony. Sony just didn't really have the strongest time. Next company we'll look at is Universal. Now, speaking of animation, this may be partially the reason why also Goat didn't do as great, because the Super Mario Galaxy movie came out, I think, like a few weeks later. And obviously, between the two, Mario was going to get way more eyes than Goat was going to. Um, and yeah, I mean, as you can see, I mean, Mario's did great, very closely, reaching that $1 billion mark. Um, So it's gone off and did great. But Universal did have more downsides than they did good. Mario absolutely being a highlight for them, though. I mean, making close to $1 billion is nothing to shy away from. Um, but they did have two films that didn't do so great. Reminders of Him, uh, which was another adaptation of a Colin Hoover book. The lady who wrote I believe it's a lady. My apologies if it's not. Uh, the one who wrote It Ends with Us, which that legal lawsuit, thank God, is now over with. That was just became just a weird thing to watch. But um, that and You, Me, and Tuscany, which I am not shocked at all, did not do great because that genre is not necessarily thriving rom coms. So they had more downsides, but they had a very very solid win in Mario. So now let's look at Warner Brothers, and as you can see, Warner Brothers really did not have a good time this quarter. I think that they are probably very surprised, given the only thing that worked well for them was Lee Cronin's The Mummy, because when you look at just how that movie was handled in terms of marketing, in terms of just the overall just care for the project, when you like kind of investigate behind the scenes, kind of the word of mouth, basically was it sounds like the producers and stuff like that, people at Universal, they weren't exactly happy, with how this movie was turning out. Um, there's all those rumors about them restructuring the movie and being called something completely different. So it's actually probably a nice ending, to that whole thing, to seeing that is the one thing that actually ended up doing well for them. Ended up doing just fine. I mean, I think it'll end up doing what it needs to do on streaming to make up the cost, because I don't think it broke even in the theaters, but I'm pretty sure it'll end up doing just fine afterwards. But the other stuff that they had didn't do as well. Wuthering Heights kind of just came and went. I mean, I think it did kind of a decent number on the opening, but then just kind of fizzled out. The Bride came and flopped real hard. Um, no one seemed to really care to watch that. And They Will Kill You, which also kind of came and went. Um, very common theme here, you should also notice. All original based movies. I mean, some of which are adaptations, but they're not major franchises or having to piggyback on such things. They they are, by the general public, we'll say original films. And well, you know, people want to say they want original movies. I know quality is a subjective thing, but it's out there. It's just people just don't care to see that sort of stuff, unfortunately. But moving on from that, let's look at the next company, which is Lionsgate. So I said that I didn't think that Michael was going to do great, but well, I was totally wrong on that. Michael has now made about $700 million, which is where Lionsgate said it would need to make. I think that they're maybe not considering marketing. That is also in that equation. So I think that it needs to do a little bit more, say like 800 million, to really truly break even. But I think it's on its way to doing that. So now, will they do another film? Who knows? I mean, that's a whole legal thing that we've discussed before. So we'll see what happens there. But definitely a highlight for the company at least. But they still had more downsides than they did. The Greenland 2. I don't know who the hell was asking for another one. Um, I don't know. The Strangers Chapter 3, just even for as small of a budget as it had, it just did not work. That series just did not materialize at all. The first film did what it did because it was bringing back an old series, but then it just went further down, um, financially, it seems. And then I Can Only Imagine 2, which I don't think anyone really knew existed because there was like zero marketing attached to it. So at least on their end, Michael Jackson, which is the thing that they probably cared about the most, ended up doing as well as it did. So that's a good thing. All right, let's look at Disney. Yeah, yeah. It's been rough for Disney lately. It's been rough. A lot of their offerings Horror based this time. We had Send Help, which didn't really do all that great when you really look at the numbers. Psycho Killer, which just bombed hard because they didn't care to market it at all. Um, Hoppers, which, at one point I thought it said 500 million, but then it actually said 300 million. And for as much as that movie cost to make, making close to only 300 million is not necessarily a good thing, especially once you account for distribution. So it just unfortunately, solidifies so far, Pixar in terms of where they're at right now. It's pretty disappointing. And then Ready or Not 2, which I would have maybe I put on the good side, but then had to consider just, you know, uh, is it plausible for it to do well on streaming? I don't know why, but I'm saying no. I just don't see that film really resonating on streaming. Supposedly it was a hit, or quote unquote a hit on streaming. I don't know what that necessarily entails, but in my book anyway, I feel like it probably should have done a little bit more than it actually did. So yeah, not the best time for Disney. Not the best time. It probably will change given in the next couple months we have things coming out. I don't I don't anticipate Mandalorian and Grogu to really do well either. I know it's opening big, but that's just because it's new. We'll see how it does in the next few weeks, but I'm pretty sure this company will have some bright sides in the next few months. But right now they're not really celebrating all too much. So next company we're going to look at is A24. Now, if there is a company that is celebrating uh, this quarter to some extent, it probably is A24. Um, Two of their movies ended up doing good, both really cheap. Um, there was Undertone, which I know was like made for less than $1 million. It ended up doing great. Um, and then you have the drama, which we've talked about a lot. We just talked about a few days ago, doing as well as it did. I don't agree with how the reason for why it did great, but hey, it ended up doing fine. Sorry, my kitty is just in a chatty mood right now. Um, but they had more downsides than good sides. But largely, A24 as a company has more downsides than good sides because they are usually doing more original based stuff, which is hard sells. For a lot of audiences. So films like The Moment, How to Make a Killing, and Mother Mary didn't exactly resonate purely for that reason, and also because there wasn't a large marketing campaign to support those movies. So yeah. But they had some good offerings at least, or at least they had more successes than failures compared to a lot of the other companies in terms of overall quantity. So, what do you think? He's just sitting here now wanting to watch. But yeah, A24 had some good sides, but still more bad sides than good sides, unfortunately. All right, now let's talk about Amazon, because Amazon, of course, has been wanting to branch out into the theaters. Some of you may be asking, why is Project Hail Mary not on the good side? Um, so we know the movie cost 200 million, at least as far as I read. So that's not accounting for any marketing that they maybe had, added on top of that. And remember about theatrical distribution or anything that I just said. So 200 times 4, that movie should be doing about maybe $800 million in order to really be seeing a return on investment. So it hasn't hit that. I mean, it's made a lot of money, right? But a lot of times, making a lot of money does not mean that you're literally making money. It just means you have a nice headline to use. In the in the scenario of when you don't, make all the money, you can use that as an escape code. Like, hey, look how much money it literally made. But it's like, well, did you make enough money to cover the cost? It's like, not really. So, so by that, Project Hail Mary, I don't think is really a success, in my eyes anyway. And I think it goes without saying the rest of them aren't successes either. Mercy just didn't do as great. Melania, I think it kind of goes without saying why. Um, and Crime 101, which, kind of also came and went. So Yeah, I mean, I know Amazon wants to get in the business, but I always love their rationale. It's the best, just them saying, "Oh, well, it's not about how it does in theaters; it's about how it does on our platform." That's the mark of how good a movie will be for us. Is when it how it lands on streaming. It's like, then why the fuck are you putting it in theaters anyway? You know, it's just them trying to save face, but it's just it's funny to see them try, in that respect. Not to sound cocky or anything, but it's funny to see them try. Um, but yeah, not great, not great for the company. Yeah. So, but all right, moving on. Next company we're going to look at is Paramount. Um, Paramount, as you see, yeah, they had a all right first quarter. I think the one that they were hoping to do well ended up doing well. Scream Seven, which I know had its controversies surrounding it. But hey, I mean that franchise on its seventh entry, still doing strong, and still pulling numbers. So um, you know, I know people weren't as happy about that specific movie in terms of quality, but financially, hey, it's still pulling. So and then there was Primate, which I'm kind of surprised didn't take off. I'm surprised that it didn't do as great as it could have been. It could have been really good, financially. But I think it just kind of was talked about for a brief minute, and then just that was it. Kind of more to my point of what I'm saying, where people are more associated with IPAs than they are with something like an original based concept. So it's very, very specific taste in that department that will get people to come see those movies or take the gamble with them. And this is more proof to that. All right, next company we're going to look at is a company called Vertical. The only reason why I'm bringing them up is because they had two notable releases, um, and that's why they get their own little spot. Um, and well, yeah, they didn't exactly do great. Monumentally, especially of one of them. We Bury the Dead with Daisy Ridley. That didn't do all that great, largely to do with a lack of marketing. I think that's probably why that movie didn't do all that great. And then Desert Warrior, which is historically one of the worst performances for a movie I think ever, from what I've heard. Yeah, a monumental failure. $150 million on the table for this, and I think it barely opened to like a million or so. It's it's pretty bad. Um, and I mean, I don't know the distribution, all the sort of logistics behind that. Who's taking the brunt of that. Obviously, whoever the production company is for this movie, obviously they're to put it lightly, they're eating a lot of shit right now. They're not in a good stance right now. Um, and obviously we know obviously a lot of political parts of this, are largely why this film was probably quote unquote censored, and unfortunately did not break out where in ways that it could have. So it is what it is. It's just very unfortunate. I mean, just generally speaking, I just don't think that movie was ever gonna get off the ground. But there you have that. And last but not least, I have a category called standalone studio pieces. So these are all from different companies, all from different distributors. So it's not just like one and done sort of deal. So on that front, we have two movies that actually ended up doing well from individual companies. We have, of course, Iron Lung, which was self-distributed by the YouTuber Markiplier. Did very well for him and for his company. We have Solo Mio, which was a film from Angel Studios, which the guys who recently gave you Animal Farm and other things here and there, The King of Kings last year. Yeah, ended up doing fine. But there's a lot of stuff from individual companies that also didn't do great. I'm including The Rip from Netflix because that movie, I know, cost a pretty penny. And knowing Netflix and knowing streamers, when they don't mention anything after the week it comes out, that pretty much tells me it didn't do well. Um, so I'm just putting it there based on what I suspect, based on the lack of discussion, about the movie after it came out. So, Dead Man's Wire, again, kind of falling in the vein of original based things. I think that's Row K. I think that's what it is. Good luck, have fun, don't die. Return to Silent Hill. I know I have the Spanish poster. I just couldn't find the English one, or with higher quality. Shelter, I believe that's Black Bear, and the Dracula film from Luc Besson, which is from a French distributor. So, yeah, again, kind of this is more in the vein of budgeting than IP. Uh, but yeah, I mean, it's not looking great for specific kinds of content. Very rarely does it benefit, but very often, as you're seeing, it's not what audiences are really into nowadays. And nothing can be more telling of that than with this. So normally what I do at the end of these videos is that I like to create pie charts to kind of give you guys an idea of where things are. And well, as you can see, it's been largely on the downsides. There's been some, uh, based on the chart that I did, in terms of productions, because I'm looking at it also by budgeting. I'm looking at it just purely by cost, by double, triple, or single digit. I've also included the little small ones like Undertone, which was like not even made for $1 million. Um, you know, as you can see, um, it's pretty evenly matched between those that are double, successes. The idea of budgeting of like films that are double digit compared to the ones that are failing, that are triple digits. Um, they kind of evenly there. But actually, on the smaller scale of things, when it comes to the budgeting, for just the doubles, they actually are outpacing that of a triple, because Michael is the only film in that quarter that had a triple digit budget that did actually well. Um, Single digits, we have little ones here. We have Iron Lung and Solo Mio, which did good. We have two that also didn't do great. We had The Moment and Strangers Chapter 3. Undertone, a little small one there. Under budget, which was like half, not even close to $1 million. And then all of this is double digits also. So largely not the strongest time. Some bright spots here and there, but largely not that great. And then you look at it when you compare to the other years. Like this is 2026, what you just looked at. This is 2025, and this is 2024. You can see that this little area where things are successful, it's getting smaller and smaller. Now, the amounts that I also have looked at is different also, so I will also be fair. This study is a little bit smaller compared to this one, which is a lot bigger, and this one's maybe about the same. Um, so it's probably more fair to look at it like this. I'm also taking into account single digit stuff and other things. But yeah, as you can see, it's going down. It's getting smaller, So it's not particularly great when you look at it from that prism. So those are my thoughts on the spring box office. So not particularly the best. There were some bright spots here and there, with Mario, with Michael, with some smaller projects here and there, the drama, some even smaller scale stuff like Undertone and uh, Iron Lung, doing what it did, without the reliance on a bigger studio, so there's some. I mean, obviously that was also factoring, his YouTube's fame that also, kind of that contributed to that success, but some bright spots here and there, but mostly that of a downtime. It's just the way things are right now, unfortunately. But we will see how the summer goes. We're in May right now. I'm not feeling that confident about Mandalorian and Grogu. I mean, we'll see. Uh, you know, we'll see where things end up for that. But that all remains to be seen. We'll see what happens by, was it August or September? We'll see by then where things are at. But let me know your thoughts about this past quarter. Do you guys feel like it was good? Do you guys feel it was bad? Do you guys feel any differently about some of the films that I mentioned? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section below. And that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.